So I think to Matt's point, what we really want to underscore here today is that whether you're the brand managing your own websites, or you're an agency or data scientist that is working with the brands to execute the data constructs, you're all part of the web, and you're all ultimately digital publishers. Your digital presence is your reputation. It's driving your business, and it also opens up and creates all sorts of different risks. You invest immense amounts of time and effort into creating and managing your data presence and practices, but rarely do we find on the brand side or the agency side, and I'm separating brands from a digital publisher that's typically ad-supported like a CNN. Typically on the brand side, we're not seeing a lot of companies focusing on all of the different code executions and things that occur behind the scenes. So in this particular example, we'll just cover a couple of risks today. This is an example of malware. JCPenney, large retailer, e-commerce site in the US, they actually allow third-party products that they sell to run product placement and advertising on their website. So in this particular case, instead of running a nice clean ad, one of those third parties ran an advertisement that had been hacked. And so the consumer, when they visited the site, instead of being able to purchase something from JCPenney, instead was hit with an Angler exploit kit which dropped ransomware onto their browser, and they had to buy back all of their data via bitcoins from malware purveyors. So instead of just a really bad consumer experience, instead of just a nice consumer experience buying a product, they got ransomware. In addition, JCPenney had to actually take down the website for the predominance of a day because they didn't know where the attack was coming from. Had they been monitoring their site, they would have known precisely where the attack came from and would have been able to take it down very, very quickly. Moving on to another risk type, and I think that would be fairly appropriate for this audience, is just simply data leakage. To us, that's the collection of website audience without the website owner's permission. So in this particular case, it's fairly unclear, but this is part of a call chain from Ross Shoes execution on their website. So what that's showing is there's one individual line of code that drives a portion of the content on the page that then is integrated in with retargeting in the data management platform. So the one individual domain is then calling 21 additional domains, maybe made up of 15 different companies. Each one of those is kind of executing a different piece of that retargeting CRM capability. But then one of the domains in the additional 21 is calling 70 more. And those are going to be your ad exchanges, they're going to be your social media groups that ultimately are trading segments in real time. Now, what's interesting on the Ross Shoes website is that 63% of these 91 new domains that were introduced to the site are dropping cookies with unique identifiers in longer than 1 year duration sessions. So they're able to track that consumer as well. Basically what that means is Ross has, and hopefully nobody hears from Ross, but they have no control over their data exposure. Once a consumer leaves the site, that's being used by anybody literally anybody in the ecosystem now knows they're a shoe intender, so they can target them fairly effectively. Obviously, some fairly questionable data privacy concerns would be in there as well, and just kind of a negative and creepy user experience. So where is the control ultimately? About a month ago, Symantec came out with their State of the Internet Security Report. They say that 75% of websites are vulnerable to serving malware. Why is that? That's because 78% of the source code served by websites and mobile applications is not owned and operated source code. It's the third parties you use to do data collection, to do all of the different data management, retargeting, et cetera. So that leaves companies open and vulnerable to security issues, that type of compromise. Obviously, revenue loss due to data leakage, lack of control over your first-party data. And then finally, certainly here in the EU, lots of exposure to lawyers, fines and penalties, and regulation problems.